Imagine a time when the world was not divided by borders, but by vast waters. A time where seafarers dared to cross the unknown, not for conquest, but for commerce. The Phoenicians were not warriors, yet they conquered the world in a different way, through trade, innovation, and culture. They built an expansive trade network, connecting lands as far as Mesopotamia and the British Isles. They spread goods, ideas, and even the foundations of the writing system we use today.
Their legacy lies buried beneath the ruins of their cities, waiting to be rediscovered.
The origins and homeland of the Phoenicians. Our story begins over 3 millennia ago, along the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea, in a region that corresponds largely to modern-day Lebanon, parts of Syria, and Israel. The Phoenicians were not a unified empire,
but rather a collection of independent city-states,
such as Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, and Arwad. Long before the Greeks and Romans came to power, the Phoenicians dominated the Mediterranean region. The Phoenician civilization flourished from around 1550 to 300 B.C.E., until Tyre was eventually conquered first by the Persians and then by the Greeks. The term Phoenician comes from the Greek word phoenix, which means purple or red, a reference to the famous purple dye that these seafaring traders produced from the murex snail. Phoenicia's rugged terrain made large-scale agriculture challenging, which in turn pushed its inhabitants to innovate in trade and maritime navigation. Their location along major sea routes allowed them to become the communicators of the ancient world, bringing the gap between the civilizations of the East and West. The Greek historian Herodotus claimed that the Phoenicians migrated from the Erythraean Sea around 2750 BC, while geographer Strabo recorded a tradition linking their origins to the Tylos and Arwad. Some archaeologists studying the Persian Gulf have supported these accounts, suggesting a migration associated with the collapse of the Dilmun civilization around 1750 BC. However, most scholars dismiss the migration theory, as both archaeological and historical evidence point to long-term population continuity in the region. Additionally, recent genetic research indicates that modern Lebanese largely descended from the Canaanite-related population. The Phoenicians were unparalleled seafarers. Their ships were technological marvels of the ancient world, built for long voyages across unprecedented seas. Phoenician ships were the lifeblood of their economy. Their design, light, agile, and built for speed, allowed them to navigate both open seas and narrow coastal passages, making them perfect for establishing trade networks that spanned continents. They established trade routes reaching as far as the British Isles for tin, West Africa for gold and ivory, and even ventured into the expansive waters of the Atlantic. Trade was not merely about commerce, it was a conduit for cultural exchange. The Phoenicians traded not only luxury goods like the prized Tyrian purple dye, but also essential commodities such as glass, timber, and metalwork. These exchanges enriched many ancient civilizations, from the Greeks to the Egyptians, and even reached as far as the Roman Empire. Perhaps one of the Phoenicians' most enduring contributions to history is their development of one of the first alphabets. Prior to the Phoenicians' alphabet, writing systems such as cuneiform and hieroglyphics were complex and cumbersome, often reserved for priests or scribes. The Phoenician script, however, was simple, efficient, and accessible, a system that would eventually evolve into the alphabet used by many cultures today. The Phoenician alphabet consisted of 22 consonant letters, a revolutionary departure from the previous writing system that relied heavily on pictograms and symbols. This innovation not only facilitated easier record-keeping and communication among merchants, but also laid the groundwork for subsequent alphabetic systems, including Greek and Latin. Beyond their prowess in trade and writing, the Phoenicians had a rich tapestry of religious beliefs and cultural practices. Their polytheistic religion was deeply intertwined with nature and the sea, reflecting their dependence on maritime life.
Prominent among their deities were Baal, the storm and fertility god, Astarte, associated with love and war, and Melkart, the patron deity of the city of Tyre,
often equated with the Greek hero Hercules. Phoenician art and architecture are another window into their complex society. A valuable reference for Phoenician architecture is found in the Bible, specifically in 1 Kings chapter 6-7, which describes King Solomon's temple. Although constructed in Jerusalem during the 10th century B.C.E., its architects and craftsmen were Phoenician, and its layout closely resembles temples discovered at Phoenician sites throughout the region. Additionally, its overall design reflects a strong influence from Egyptian architecture. The Temple of Melkart at Tyre, of which no remains have been found,
was built during the reign of Hiram
in the 10th century BCE.
The 5th century BCE Greek historian Herodotus
tells us that there were 2 columns at the entrance, made from the same material as those at Solomon's temple. The columns may each have been topped with a Proto-Aeolic capital, examples of which have been found on Cyprus and other Levant sites, which is considered a Phoenician invention. Establishing empires, the Phoenician colonies. As their influence grew, the Phoenicians did not confine themselves to their coastal homelands. The first Phoenician colonies were established in Cyprus, an island rich in copper, a vital mineral for making bronze. The next wave of settlements spread westward to North Africa, Sicily, Sardinia, and Spain. Unlike military-driven conquests, these settlements were strategic trading posts. The Phoenicians preferred to integrate with local populations rather than dominate them, fostering cooperation and mutual benefit. The most famous of these colonies was Carthage, founded around the 9th century BCE in what is now Tunisia. Carthage quickly rose to prominence, becoming a major maritime power in its own right. It was here that Phoenician ingenuity merged with local cultures to create a unique and vibrant civilization. However, the rise of Carthage also set the stage for future conflicts with other great powers of the ancient world. As Carthage expanded, it inevitably clashed with the Greek city-states over control of Sicily, a crucial strategic and economic prize. These conflicts, known as the Sicilian Wars, were fierce and long-lasting, demonstrating Carthage's formidable naval and military capabilities. Yet, it was Rome who would become Carthage's greatest rival. The two powers engaged in the Punic Wars, a series of brutal conflicts that would shape the course of history. The legendary military campaigns of the Carthaginian generals, particularly Hannibal's audacious crossing of the Alps with his war elephants, have captured the imaginations of historians and storytellers alike. Despite early Carthaginian victories, Rome's resilience and superior resources ultimately led to Carthage's downfall. In 146 BCE, after a grueling siege, the Romans razed Carthage to the ground, enslaved its people, and symbolically salted the fields to ensure that it would never rise again. Vassalage under the Assyrians and Babylonians, 858 to 538 BC. As neighboring empires began to rise, the Phoenicians increasingly fell under the sway of foreign rulers, who, to varying degrees, circumscribed their autonomy. The Assyrian control over Phoenicia started under King Shalmaneser III, who came to power in 858 BC and launched military campaigns against neighboring regions. While he refrained from directly invading Phoenicia and maintained positive relations with the cities, he still demanded tribute from the kings of the seacoast, likely referring to the Phoenician city-states. Tyre, Sidon, Arwad, and Byblos contributed offerings of bronze, tin, silver, gold, ebony, and ivory. Initially, these cities were not fully annexed and retained a certain level of autonomy. However, this changed in 744 BC with the rise of Tiglath-Pileser III. By 738 BC, much of the Levant, including northern Phoenicia, had been incorporated into the Assyrian Empire. Only Tyre and Byblos, the region's most powerful city-states, remained as tributary states outside of direct Assyrian rule. This pattern of foreign dominance, while allowing Phoenician cities some level of self-governance, continued under later empires. Persian period, 539 to 332 BC. In 539 BC, the powerful Achaemenid Empire, led by Cyrus the Great, conquered the Neo-Babylonian Empire. This marked the beginning of Persian rule over Phoenicia, a land known for its maritime prowess, advanced trade networks, and legendary cities. As Cyrus began consolidating territories across the Near East, the Phoenician apparently made the pragmatic calculation of yielding themselves to the Persians. Under Persian rule, Phoenician cities were responsible for supplying ships and sailors to the Achaemenid fleet. Their naval contributions were vital in several key conflicts, including Darius I's campaign against Greece and the later invasion of Xerxes I during the Greco-Persian Wars. Despite military setbacks, Phoenicia continued to flourish economically under Persian rule. Their cities thrived as centers of trade, linking the Persian Empire with Egypt, Greece, and the Western Mediterranean. Though Phoenicia thrived economically, Persian rule was not always welcomed. In 351 BC, during the reign of Artaxerxes III, Phoenicia attempted to break free from Persian control. Sidon, one of the most powerful Phoenician cities, led a rebellion against the Achaemenids. However, the revolt was brutally crushed and Sidon was burnt to the ground, with thousands of its inhabitants killed. After this failed uprising, Persian rule tightened, but Phoenicia remained a valuable asset to the empire, with its ports and resources still in high demand. The final chapter of Persian rule in Phoenicia came in 332 BC, when Alexander the Great launched his campaign against the Achaemenid Empire. Hellenistic period, 332 to 152 BC. In 332 BC, the winds of change blew over Phoenicia as Alexander the Great marched through the Levant on his way to conquer Persia. The Phoenician cities, long under Persian rule, were now forced to make a choice: resist or submit. Most Phoenician cities, such as Byblos, Arwad, and Sidon, quickly surrendered to the Macedonian conqueror. But the proud city of Tyre, the jewel of Phoenicia, refused. Tyre was one of the most fortified cities in the ancient world, but Alexander was not easily deterred. For 7 months, Alexander besieged the city, constructing a massive causeway to reach the island. Despite fierce resistance, Tyre fell in July 332 BC. Following Alexander's death, Phoenicia became a battleground between two of his most powerful successors, the Ptolemies of Egypt and the Seleucids of Syria. This struggle would shape the region for over a century. By 64 BCE, the disassembled parts of Phoenicia were annexed by Rome, and by 15 CE, were colonies of the Roman Empire, with Heliopolis remaining an important pilgrimage site which boasted the grandest religious building, the Temple of Jupiter Baal, in all of the empire, the ruins of which remain well preserved to this day. Even though the Phoenicians vanished as an independent people, their legacy continues to influence our world in profound ways. Consider the alphabet, a tool that revolutionized communication, education, and culture. Likewise, the maritime techniques perfected by the Phoenicians set the stage for global exploration and trade. If you enjoyed this exploration into one of history's most fascinating civilizations, please like the video,
Subscribe for more deep dives into our shared past, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. And remember, every time you write a letter or set sail on a new adventure, you're echoing the spirits of the Phoenicians, a spirit of exploration, innovation, and unity.